am artist Lillian Gray and I have someone you need to meet, South African artist Willie Bester. Willie Bester is a multidisciplinary South African artist. He's best known for his sculptures, installations, mixed media and collage artworks, but he also practices oil painting and watercolours. He uses his art to comment on social and political injustices in South Africa. His early work was dedicated to protesting against the apartheid system. His work has made a serious impact in changing people's perceptions. His artworks are regarded as hard-hitting with a lingering effect. A word of caution here. Some of the topics that Willie Bester's art comments on is quite violent and atrocious, so it might not be suitable for very young viewers. Willie's story is a story of a small, impoverished boy raised in the oppressive apartheid system of South Africa, and this boy finally breaking free and finding his voice through his art. He has exhibited globally with international exhibitions in Belgium, Italy, Dakar, China, Netherlands, Tokyo, London, Ireland, Spain, USA, and even in Cuba. Because Willie uses found objects in collages to represent the real world, he has been compared to international artists such as Pablo Picasso's synthetic cubism and the early pop art works of Robert Rauschenberg. So come with me as we delve a little bit deeper into Willie Bester's story and find out why he is so passionate about justice. Willie Bester was born in 1956 in Montague, a very small town outside Cape Town in the Western Cape. Montague is kind of known for dry fruit and their beautiful, beautiful mountains. Now 1956 is an important date. It tells us that it was the time of apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid was a system that separated people by race, in 4 racial categories to be exact: white people, colored people, black people, and Asians. This system was really unfair because white people's rights were prioritized above all the other races, so they were more privileged. Now you see, Willie's trouble really started at birth. Because from the word go, he didn't quite fit into the system. You see, his father was Xhosa and black, and his mother was colored. Now back then it was against the law for people of different races to get married. So he was basically born a crime. Willie's parents weren't married at the time of his birth, so he was given his mother's surname and marked as colored, which was kind of better than being marked as black because colored people had a little bit more rights than black people. When he was 6 months old, his parents finally got married. However, this caused a lot of trouble for their family. You see, his parents were categorized as a mixed race relationship, so they weren't really allowed to live together. You see, the apartheid government wanted to split the different races. So there was a neighborhood for the colored people, and there were black workers that were living in single-sex hostels. So Willie Bester's family didn't fit in with either, and they had to kind of make a plan. So the only place they could live together was in the backyard of somebody else's house. To raise extra money, his mother opened up a shebeen in the backyard and was constantly arrested for selling liquor illegally. Now Montague is a farming community, and as a little boy, Willie often witnessed violence and brutality between the farmers and the farm workers, and as well as the police mistreating his black dad. So these are a lot of images of violences and injustices that was really cemented into his brain. During his childhood, Willie Bester showed a natural talent for art. Black kids and colored kids didn't have a lot of resources, never mind toys. As a small boy, Willie loved making wired cars to play with, and then eventually he started selling them. A teacher at school noticed his love for art and encouraged him to enter an art competition. And he won! This really motivated Willie to explore his talents more. Now, at this time in South Africa, there was very little organized resistance to apartheid. Everybody just kind of accepted it, and that was the way it is, and plotted along. And there was a lot of racism even between the different classes. His mother's family rejected Bester and his siblings because their father was a black Xhosa-speaking man and wasn't the Afrikaans-speaking colored person that they wanted her to marry. And things even got worse. In 1966, the family had to move to a township outside of town because of the new Groups Area Act. Now, the Groups Area Act is like the cornerstone of the apartheid policies. Basically what it was is that South Africa was divided into these sections that certain races were allowed to live. If you were of a different race, you weren't allowed to live, operate a business, or own any land in these areas. But as you can see on this map, only a small amount of land was demarcated to the other three races, where the rest was all given to the white people, even though they are the minority in South Africa. In his late teenage years, Willie Bester joined the South African Defence Force. A lot of teenagers living in rural townships decided to sign up during this time. He spent a year in the army and another in a military camp for the unemployed black youth. This experience exposed Willie to the atrocities of war and pointless deaths. After the army, Willie worked as a dental technician's assistant, working more in the medical field. During this time, he kind of dabbled in art in and out, but it wasn't until the age of 35 that he was a full-time committed artist. During the 1980s, the resistance movements, like the Soweto Uprising and the death of Hector Peterson, inspired Willie Bester to return to his childhood interest in art. He wanted to be a part of the movement, a part of the resistance, a part of breaking down apartheid, a part of creating a new, just world. I love this quote from Bester, where he says, "I was sort of brainwashed all my life to believe that I am less than other people. And I thought art can restore your pride. When you don't agree with something, art is so strong, it will come out and state that you are also here. You are somebody, and you are just like anybody else." So in the 1980s, Willie decided to join the community arts program in Cape Town. By joining CAP as a part-time art student, Bester met a lot of interesting people. People that were opposed to the apartheid system, people openly criticizing the government, and that was very unusual at the time. This inspired Willie Bester to create some of his two first mixed media pieces, Forced Removal and Don't Vote. Both these artworks protested the injustices of the Groups Area Act and the racial composition of the apartheid's voter roll. He was using township waste to communicate the plight of the townships. In the artwork Forced Removals, Willie Bester depicts the destruction of District 6 in Cape Town. These removals were usually sudden and violent, with police and soldiers entering the townships. This was often a very painful and emotional time for those families forced to leave their homes, with only the possessions that they were able to carry. Townships such as Sophia Town in Johannesburg and District 6 in Cape Town are two examples of flourishing communities that were completely destroyed by the apartheid government. During this time, he gained more confidence in his work and started working bigger and experimenting with larger structures and photography. He says that during apartheid, freedom of speech was suppressed, so I decided to change the way I talk, to rather use my hands to talk for me. Let's take a closer look at some of Willie Bester's most important artworks. This artwork is called Hamba Kahle and made in 1993 with mixed media. The central image of this work is a portrait of Chris Hani. He was the leader of the South African Communist Party and the chief of staff from Konto Sizwe. Hani was tragically assassinated on Easter Sunday in 1993. Artist Willie Bester used various cutouts from newspapers and photographs to depict the circumstances of Hani's death. Let's take a closer look at various sections in this artwork and look at the symbolism and meaning behind it all. In the top left-hand corner, we see the murderer, the Polish immigrant Janusz Wallace. In the right-hand corner, we see the 6-day mourning process of Hani's death and the violence it incited in South Africa. We see comrades grieving over Hani's body. In the center of the artwork, the portrait of Chris Hani is framed by a bicycle wheel. Now this wheel has got layers of meaning. It represents the feared death by necklacing, using a burnt tire to kill a person. It also resembles a laurel wreath. And because the wheel can have an industrial connotation, it could also suggest Hani's socialist belief, which are further indicated by the red color of the sky and the hammer and sickle emblems. On the tire, the words are written Hamba Kahle, which means go gently, and the fateful words that Hani uttered in a television broadcast a few days just before he was killed. I've lived with death for most of my life. Nobody wants to die. I want to live in a free South Africa, and I'm prepared to lay down my life for it. The focus of this artwork is commenting on Hani's achievements in the battle for peace in South Africa. When we look to the right, we can see a dove covering an AK-47. This artwork also comments on the vilification of Hani. On the left, we see a target, and on the right, we see a top secret hit list, and how Hani was demonized by the media. In the bottom right-hand corner, we see an image of a miner, and his eyes are crossed out, showing the fatal record and tragedies that occurred in South African mines. Just above him is an old banknote showing the capitalist motivation behind mining in South Africa and all the suffering it caused amongst the black population. At the bottom of the image, we see a tin guitar, and to me this shows a community is still struggling to find joy in all this oppression. Just above the guitar, we see a yoke indicating the subjugation of the majority of South Africans in this time. Throughout the entire artwork, there is a scattering of numbers and letters, which kind of symbolizes the process of dehumanizing people by sorting them into different categories, marking them, stamping them, and branding them as less. This comments on the passbook system of South Africa. Next up, let's discuss the artwork Head North, a monumental sculpture piece created by Willie Bester in 1995. This artwork depicts a massive oxen on wheels with a gun mounted on his back. As he moves forward, he leaves behind him barbed wire, and entangled into the barbed wire are coffins marked with red crosses. Now, what could this artwork possibly be talking about? This artwork refers to the voortrekkers migration, known as the Groot Trek. It depicts the destruction of colonialism and the amount of Africans it killed in its wake. This mixed media piece is called Migrant Labourer and was created by Willie Bester in 1993. Now, previously I explained to you the Group Lands Act, where the government forced people that weren't white to go and live in specific homelands. Now, these homelands didn't have a lot of resources, and black men could not find jobs in these areas. They were forced to leave their families behind and go and work in the cities. In the cities, they had to go and live in single-sex hostels with atrocious living conditions. They generally worked as miners and were paid very, very little. This specific artwork, done by Willie Bester, focuses on one migrant laborer in specifically, called Semakazi. In the middle of the artwork, we see Semakazi and his bed being changed into a prison. Now, migrant workers back then had to actually pay monthly rent for their bed in these hostels to be able to work in the mines. The bed is connected to a chain with a lock on it, showing how Semakazi is a prisoner of the apartheid system. That chain leads to the Bible, which is then also connected to Semakazi's passbook. Now, this is quite an interesting comment to me. It shows the conflicting dualism of the Afrikaner at the time. They proclaim to be Christian. They proclaim to be the followers of Christ. Yet they brand people, classify them, create hatred and violence. The artwork also depicts the two worlds that Semakazi lived in. We see the love for his homeland, the longing for his children and his wife that are still living in the homelands that he probably only saw once a year. And on the other side, we see the industrialization, the miners, the working, the city, the cold-heartedness, the isolation. The use of bones depict this rural living in homelands where all the metal and wire depicts city living. At the top of the artwork, we see all these tins lined up with numbers. This comments on how the apartheid government only saw people as numbers. In the bottom right-hand corner, we see a roller with a pad of ink. This also comments on the classification of people and links to the passbook. Semakazi's story is quite tragic. He worked for years and years in the mines of South Africa, but when he applied for his pension from the construction firm, he was told that he was listed as dead and was not allowed to get pension. This was often the case with a lot of migrant workers. 6 months after Willie Bester captured the sad life of Semakazi, he was murdered by gangsters. In the artwork, mechanical clamps become handcuffs, and Willie Bester shows how Semakazi was a captive of the apartheid economic system. He never stood a chance in getting a retirement with his family in the Transkei. And although the work tells the story of Semakazi specifically, it was the sad truth and reality for many black people in South Africa. These are just some of the highlights of Willie Bester's artworks done during apartheid. After apartheid ended, Willie Bester continued to produce works and continued to advocate for human rights and humanity in the wake of apartheid. He sees himself more as an activist than as an artist, and he strives for human dignity for all. He said that he would believe things would change for the better after 1994, but still finds a lot of injustices and inequalities in the new South Africa. So he continues to expose greed, poverty, and corruption in society with his artworks. He said, "I am tempted sometimes to call it a day, to go to the sea and to paint beautiful things. But I don't want to be a part of a peaceful community. I want to be a part of building it." He believes that it's important to keep the memory of apartheid alive so that people can prevent repeating the atrocities that occurred. He says he cannot be quiet and remain silent when he sees wrongdoing. "I believe that we must protest against that which is wrong. There is no form of escape. Remaining apolitical is a luxury that South Africans simply cannot afford." Now, I would like to discuss 2 artworks that Willie Bester created in his post-apartheid era. Even though one of the artwork refers to an event in the apartheid times, it shows how Willie Bester is keeping the memory of apartheid alive so that we do not repeat these atrocities. The first artwork I would like to discuss is called Trojan Horse. It is a sculpture series created by Willie Bester consisting of 3 different horses. The artwork, however, comments on something tragic that happened in 1985 in the coloured community of Athlone in Cape Town. Some of you might be familiar with the story of the Trojan horse, where the Greeks gained access to the city of Troy after 10 years of an unsuccessful siege. They pretended to create this beautiful horse that was a gift to the city, while meanwhile inside soldiers were hiding. And once they received the gift, pulled it into the city gates, the soldiers jumped out and defeated the city of Troy. These days, a Trojan horse is a symbol for somebody pretending to come in kindness, to be dressed as a gift, but in fact, it is an act of violence and war. Now back to the coloured settlement of Athlone in Cape Town in 1985. The apartheid police were performing various raids in this township, and they were met with a lot of protest. People were throwing stones, they were burning tires, they were just sick and tired of the police coming into their streets. The people started protesting with signs such as "troops out of townships," and eventually the army retracted and they left. However, later a truck arrived with a lot of crates on it, and it just kept on driving up and down the main road of Athlone. Eventually, people started throwing stones at the truck, wondering what it was doing there. Immediately, the police jumped out of the crates, fully armed, and opened fire on the civilians. Moments later, 3 boys lay dead by the side of the road. The one was only 11 and on his way to the shop to buy sweets. Artist Willie Bester was outraged by this situation, and he said this is as low as you can get. To commemorate the Trojan Horse massacre, Willie Bester created 3 large sculptures. They almost look like children's toys, these massive horses made out of scrap metal. The use of metal gives the sculpture an aggressive industrial look. The horse is life-size, and a motorbike motor is used to make its belly. At the top, there's a machine gun protruding, symbolizing the guns that came out of the truck's crates containing the police. At a closer look, we see this drips melting down, which represents the dying mentality of apartheid, and how people were slowly letting go of this mindset. A Bible is chained to the horse, and the tail is made of strips of rubber, which the police used to whip people. Once again, showing the dualism in the Afrikaner between Christianity and oppression. The horse appears aggressive and naked, revealing all its bones, its raw muscles, its sinew, as if the apartheid system is finally being exposed for what it was. This artwork by Willie Bester is called Who Let the Dogs Out? It's based on a video that leaked into the public sphere in 2000. It was quite a disturbing video. It was of the South African police forces using illegal immigrants from Mozambique to train their police dogs with. In detail, they filmed how they trained the German Shepherd dogs to bite and kill. The officer filming this also quite perversely zoomed in on all the wounds and in detail showing the destruction the dogs caused. Bester's artwork picks up the perversity of the situation and shows the sadism and voyeurism. The sculpture that he created is of 2 menacing figures, focusing on a figure lying in the middle of the floor, whimpering with fear. The one figure is a police officer, and the other a cameraman. On the side of the victim is a dog biting its stomach. It was almost not needed to depict the dog, as the malice and sadism are depicted by these 2 large figures, and the absolute terror on the victim's face. This incident of the video is a brutal reminder of how much racism is still a part of South Africa. It's also upsetting that a member of the police force filmed the brutality in such detail. Willie Bester exhibited this artwork with a soundtrack of dogs barking, and to the side through the people you could watch the actual footage that the policemen filmed. Although it is shocking that the incident that inspired this work took place post-apartheid, it shows how violence is ingrained in South Africa as a legacy of apartheid. Bester is an artist who has confronted this violence in an explicit manner. The title of the work is ironically the same as a pop song of the time. Bester in this work reminds us that all too often in our society, the dogs are let out, and that there is still a lot to be done towards a more just society. And that concludes this video discussion of artist Willie Bester's work. Let's get back to his story. Willie has exhibited all across South Africa, such as Cape Town, Johannesburg, Bloemfontein and Stellenbosch. Internationally, he has exhibited in Belgium, Italy, Dakar, China, the Netherlands, Tokyo, London, Ireland, Spain, the United States, Germany, Cuba and Amsterdam. Willie has also been the receiver of lots of awards for his amazing contribution to protest art. In 1992, the French government honored him with an award. In 2003, he received an honorary medal for the promotion of fine arts from the Suid-Afrikaanse Akademie vir Wetenskap en Kuns. He has also received the Order of Igikama by the South African government. In April 2019, Bester was awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of KwaZulu-Natal for his contribution towards the protest of apartheid. Currently, Willie Bester lives in Kuils River in South Africa with his wife Evelyn and their 3 children. His house is an extraordinary expression of his individualism and artistic abilities. Let's discuss the what, where, how and why of Willie Bester's artwork. The what. What did Willie Bester create? What was his subject matter? The subject matter he depicted in his works were of the communities oppressed under apartheid. It mainly depicted true life incidents and bitter experiences during apartheid rule. The where. Where did Willie Bester create his artworks? Willie Bester mainly creates from his home in Kuils River in Cape Town, but he depicts scenes from all over South Africa. The how. What was Willie Bester's artistic style? Like I said in the beginning of this video, Willie Bester was a multidisciplinary artist, but he is well known for his sculptures and mixed media collage work. Willie uses a lot of found objects from townships and reappropriates them. This gives his artwork layer and layers of meaning. He's almost like an archaeologist, reconstructing scenes by using discarded objects from the surroundings. His artworks often incorporate photographs or newspaper clippings from the media. The use of words are very important to Willie Bester and adds another layer of meaning. In this sense, his work is often narrative in nature. He also uses found objects such as tin cans, car tires, scrap metal, signage. He sources objects from the streets, townships, rural areas, scrapyards, hardware stores, hospitals, and power stations. He often combines oil paint to create naturalistic images into the work and also adds some of his own photographs. We also saw in this video, while discussing the various artworks, how Bester makes extensive use of symbols in his artworks. His painting style ranges from naturalism to expressionism. Abstract drips of paint are used to unify all his pieces. The why. What is the purpose of Willie Bester's artworks? Willie Bester's artworks serves as a visual documentation of certain incidents in South Africa's history. It allows us and encourages us to remember these incidents so that we may never repeat this atrocious history. The artwork strives to change the way people think and spurs us on to be a unified South Africa. And that's the story of the amazing South African protest artist Willie Bester. He is still alive and living in Cape Town today, and I hope you might bump into him someday. I'm Lillian Gray, South African artist and a lover of art history. Please like and subscribe and follow us on social media so that we can create more amazing content. Until next time!